For many, the events of Holy Week feel like a chaotic sequence of historical accidents. But what if every hour was scheduled centuries in advance? Today, it's common to treat the opening books of the Bible, like Exodus and Leviticus, as dusty collections of obscure, outdated rules. We tend to skip right past them to get to the New Testament. But when we ignore that ancient text, we throw away the actual blueprint. We lose the exact historical schedule of the Messiah's mission. Those ancient laws operated as precise prophetic shadow pictures. God required the Israelites to perform mandatory physical rehearsals year after year, century after century, preparing for a very specific future reality. Ignoring these shadow pictures makes it impossible to see the explicit proof that the life and death of Jesus were meticulously executed down to the exact day and hour. To see this schedule at work, we have to look at the first month of the ancient Hebrew calendar, the month of Aviv. God gave a strict command. On the 10th day of Aviv, every household had to select a Passover lamb. This specific lamb had to be entirely unblemished. It had to be physically flawless, with absolutely nothing wrong with it. Then came a highly peculiar instruction. The family couldn't leave the lamb out in the field. They had to bring it inside their own house and live with it for exactly 4 days before the sacrifice. Those 4 days served a dual purpose. Logistically, it was a strict period of testing to ensure the animal truly had no hidden defects. Practically, bringing a fuzzy, cute animal indoors meant the family would inevitably bond with it. God required this living arrangement so the family would grow to love the lamb. When the 14th day arrived, they would deeply feel the devastating emotional cost of a true sacrifice. Fast forward to the 1st century, to the triumphal entry. Jesus rides into Jerusalem to the sound of massive cheering crowds waving palm branches. This timeline maps the ancient law against historical reality. That entry happened exactly on Aviv 10. On the very same day the Passover lambs were commanded to be brought into the house, Jesus presented himself at the house of God. Over the next 4 days, from Aviv 10 to Aviv 14, Jesus underwent his own intense public inspection right inside the temple. He faced relentless interrogation from the religious leaders. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes attempted to trap him with complex questions about taxes, the resurrection, and the greatest of the commandments. He countered every trap with the written law, remaining unblemished under the most intense scrutiny of the religious leaders. The climax of this inspection came from the highest secular authority. The Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, examined him and officially declared, "I find no fault in him," satisfying the exact Torah requirement for a spotless sacrifice. That brings us to Aviv 14. Jesus was crucified and gave up his spirit between the evenings, at the 9th hour, or 3 p.m. This synchronized flawlessly with the exact moment the Passover lambs were being slaughtered. Jerusalem was witnessing the culmination of a millennium-long rehearsal as the Passover lamb met the 9th hour exactly on schedule. This level of precision also solves one of the biggest chronological paradoxes in the biblical narrative. The traditional timeline of a Friday crucifixion, followed by a Sunday morning resurrection, only gives us 1.5 days. But Jesus explicitly gave the sign of Jonah as proof of his authority. He stated that the Son of Man must be in the heart of the earth for exactly 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours. Looking at this calendar grid, we can use the Old Testament feast rules to solve the math. The crucifixion actually happened on a Wednesday, and Jesus was buried before sunset. This is because that week contained 2 distinct Sabbaths. Thursday was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. In the Levitical law, that counts as a high Sabbath, a day of complete rest, which trapped the timeline long before the regular weekly Sabbath on Saturday. Count them out: Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 3 full days and 3 full nights. To satisfy the 72-hour requirement of his own prophecy, Jesus had to rise from the grave on Saturday, just before the sun went down. And his timing here is critical because of the very next Levitical feast, First Fruits. This feast demands that the priest wave an unblemished offering from the newly ripened barley harvest. By rising perfectly on schedule, Jesus presented himself as the ultimate first fruits of the dead, taking on the role of the eternal high priest. The specific data points recorded in the Old Testament define the life, death, and resurrection of Christ as a historically synchronized event.